What is up, everybody? DanDanTheFireman here. I'm going to be installing the Vance and Hines mini grenades exhaust on my 2012 Sportster. I'm going to take you through the whole process. I have the instructions right here. We're just going to kind of go down the list, and it's going to be kind of quick. So if you have to pause it, but I'll try my best to explain as much as I possibly can. I'm going to be taking off the Vance and Hines or RSD Tracker 2-in-1 and be putting on the new mini grenades that Vance and Hines so graciously sent me. I got the nice mechanics shirt on that you guys sent me, so I felt it was kind of appropriate while we're gonna be doing this. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. So I have all my tools right here, and I have the exhaust and everything set up, and I got everything else right there. There's really not a whole lot of parts. It's a pretty simple thing. We're gonna go one by one. So I need to unplug the O2 sensors from the wiring harness and feed the end of the wires through the frame so they're free of the motorcycle. I need to pay attention to the wire routing for reinstallation. So deep inside there, that right there is the O2 sensor for the front. It's extremely hard to get to, but if you kind of follow the wiring, it connects to there. So we can disconnect that and we can start taking the exhaust off, and be careful not to rip it out of the exhaust. And we can get a better grip onto it once we get the exhaust kind of dismounted. So let's go and do that. So right here, what we're gonna be doing is just dismantling the exhaust, pulling it out just a little bit. That way we can get to the O2 sensors and disconnect it that way. Slight variations from the stock system removal that is inside the instructions. There's some things you got to change. I'm going to go ahead and remove the passenger peg mounts right here because that's what holds part of the Vance and Hines onto the actual frame. So we got to take this part out. Now we have to get into there. As you can tell, it's a little bit rusted. I should have taken a little better care of that, but I need to take those off on this side and then on the other side, and then be careful with the O2 sensor right there, not to rip it out. That way I can get a better access to it because I cannot get anything in there other than my fingers, and it's already too tight. So we got to get this part off now. All right, so what it is, it's a 1/2-inch socket screw. So just get a nice little extension and get in there. It might be best to just replace this. This is pretty rusted. I'll hold on to it just in case I don't have an extra one. I haven't messed with these since I put on this exhaust a couple years ago, so they are not looking good. Let's move on to this one. Woo, barely snuck in there. So remember what I said, you gotta be careful because you don't wanna rip the O2 sensors out. All right, so this is what I was trying to pull out. So that kind of bolts in, and then you got a clamp ring way back here. Mine's all rusted, but then we have the O2 sensor sitting right there. We don't wanna pull this all the way out because it could rip from there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of follow it down to here, and on the Sportster, 2012 Sportster, that's where it's connected. We can disconnect it right there and then go ahead and work with it. On the back end, it goes, there's the wire right there. Follow it all the way around. We follow it all the way around, and it goes into here, and we can disconnect it in there. That way we can pull the whole thing off with the O2 sensor and then reattach it to the new exhaust. Here we go. So now everything's disconnected. We can take this exhaust off without having to worry about the O2 sensors getting damaged. Boom. So this is what the exhaust looks like when it's off. This is the Vance and Hines 2-in-1. So what we need to do is we need to take these off and the O2 sensors with the snap ring. It's good to just replace it. Mine's rusted. I'm gonna go ahead and replace those. And then, but for purposes here, I'm gonna go ahead and just show you how to do everything. So we're gonna take the O2 sensors off now. If you're able to do this at an apartment complex, you can do it anywhere. Put these somewhere safe. I'm gonna remember that this one was in the front, this one was in the rear. Now we have to take these snap rings off so that way we can get the mounting brackets off. Now we're at the point where it's good to have snap ring pliers. I don't, I just have needle nose. So go ahead and get that tool. It's highly recommended for this part so you don't break anything and so you don't just damage the stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get it off. If you break it, just go ahead and go to the Ace Hardware and you'll find a ton of new ones. I'm all pulling this towards my face. I'm just waiting for it to snap off and hit me in the face. So now these will slide off. So this exhaust is pretty much done. I can just set it aside. If this is your stock exhaust, you have a 2-in-2, 2-in-1, whatever it is, set it aside. You might want to keep it, maybe use it later if you like it, but this thing is like really old. It's pretty much past its life expectancy. It is rusting in a lot of areas. And I'm excited to have these mini grenades on, so I'm just gonna set this off to the side. All right, so now we are going to follow the Vance and Hines exhaust installation. That's what this part is of the manual. I need to follow it per the recommendations. That way I'm not screwing anything up. So right now the first thing I need to do is install the supplied mounting bracket 1123P using the stock washers and bolts, and hand tighten only at this time. So I'm gonna go get the bag of goodies that they sent me. This is 1123P. This is the mounting bracket that goes onto your bike, and it basically holds the exhaust in the rear section of your bike. And it's a lot of wind going on here. All right, so the picture that was on here showed you removing the cover. So I removed the cover, and it looks like I needed to install right here on the bottom. So that's something that I didn't know, so it's something that we're gonna have to figure out. And I think we can get it going. All right, so we need to use these two washers, or these two screws to mount the actual bracket, and it's gonna go like this. So it's gonna go in there, and there you go. So it's gonna attach onto there, and that's kind of how it's gonna work. Second pair of hands would definitely be helpful here. Now the picture shows it just, this thing being off the whole time. Well, I don't have mine off the whole time. I prefer to have it on. Now it says to hand tighten it because you're gonna have to maneuver the exhaust a little bit. So having a hand tighten a little bit loose, that way when you have the exhaust in place, you just tighten everything else at the end. All right, so the mounting bracket is on the bike. Now you have to make sure it's level with the frame itself. And so I have a leveler right here. And the goal, that's why you need to hand tighten it, is because the goal is to make sure it's level. You still got plenty of room, and I've seen people with forward controls have this. So what I'm excited for is hopefully the passenger pegs work with this. I've seen that it does, so let's see if it actually does on my bike. So now it says you need to torque the mounting bracket bolts to 30 to 33 foot-pounds with a torque wrench. I have my torque wrench upstairs. I'm gonna mess with that a little bit later. So now it is saying to go ahead and get the heat shields and to get the exhaust, and we're gonna go ahead and get ready to mount the, we're gonna get ready to put the heat shields on the exhaust. So this is what we're gonna do. It says to have a nice, blanket down, and it says to go ahead and put the shields on and then mark where it's gonna be with the clips, because you have the clips need to go on the inside right there. You need to put the hose clamps by feeding it through and basically connecting the heat shields to the exhaust. Boom, look at that. That's not what was recommended by the manual, but it seems to work. Pretty much just gonna hand tighten them for now. That way, when I put them on, because this is what, right here, it's gonna be, I can get to the bottoms and I can tighten them even further. But for now, I'm just gonna not mess with that. Let's get all the rest on. They say to put some anti-seize compound onto the threads of the O2 sensors. That way, you're not gonna have any problems later on. Now we have to install our exhaust port flanges and the C-clips. Same process as removing them. If you have a C-clip, if you have a clamp wrench or whatever it is, this will definitely work a lot better, but I don't, so I'm just gonna do this. You're doing this on a bench with a blanket or towel, so you're not scratching anything. Now for me, I honestly don't care too much because I'm gonna be taking this bike off-road. So I'm gonna be scratching the shit out of this stuff anyways. I think Vance and Hines knew that when they sent this to me. All right, cool. So this is the front portion, so we gotta go ahead and line it all up, make sure the C-clamp and everything is good. Make sure the O2 sensor is pushed through. Yay, got one. Yay, got one. Trying to get a good angle for you guys makes it so that I have to come off at a weird angle, so this is killing my back. And I'll tighten these down even more later. I think I'll just leave that one as is. All right, so now we're off to the next one. Same process. This bottom one's gonna be a pain in the ass. I'm gonna have to use a crescent wrench for this one and get it from the other side. Oh, I might have gotten it hand tight, hand tight. There we go. Oh, never mind, spoke too soon, fell off. Got it with my fingers. Now we can kind of tighten it down. All right, so we're not supposed to tighten it super tight at this moment. Now it wants us to install the grenade parts to the actual bike. All right, so now we're gonna install the actual grenade or the muffler portion to the pipes, and the Vance and Hines logo has to be on the top one, and you need to put the band clips around this. So when you slide it in, it will clamp on and you tighten this down. So you wanna have it to where this portion right here does not come in contact with the front part, and you can adjust it from underneath once you have it all installed. So let's go ahead and put all these clips back on. There we go. And it's just a matter of sliding it on. Kind of get the, if you have to, loosen the heat shield. So it separates, there we go. You can't see it now. Of course, when I'm trying to talk to you guys, we have people moving around in the parking lot. This is apartment life. Do the same for this one right here. Go ahead and put the bolts that were supplied and connect the actual exhaust to the frame through that little, I don't even know the part. What's the part name? It's a 1123P. Now we got to connect it, everything together. Let's just do hand tight real quick so we can get everything adjusted in the position that we need. I'm not even tightening them down. I'm just kind of getting the bolts in there so they don't fall out. And I got a little bit of a scratch right there. Not a big deal. Careful not to do that yourself. All right, so now all we have to do is tighten everything down, connect the O2 sensors, and just basically start everything up. So I'm gonna just go ahead and do all that, and we're gonna jump to starting it. All right. Oops, stepping on the bubble wrap. Now that we have everything set up, we're gonna just start it. Now, when I remembered for when I did my other exhaust, when I started it, it kind of smoked a little bit. So I think that's just cooking off whatever residue or anything that's going on. So don't be alarmed when that happens. But let's kind of hear what it sounds like, and let's just start it up. All right, looks good. I didn't see anything smoking, but whatever. I got a nice little ding right there. It's not a big deal because, to be honest, this thing is gonna get trashed when I go off-road on this bike. I'm gonna go ahead and just leave it as is. I'm gonna double check all the bolts in the morning. Not gonna go for a ride. This back bolt back here on one of the flanges was a pain in the ass. Vance and Hines, I think there's a design flaw with that, with the welds and the O2 sensor. Maybe move the O2 sensor in a different spot. Figure that out. A picture's gonna be up here. It's just, it was a pain in the ass, and I don't even think I got it tightened as much as I possibly could. So I'm gonna have to go find a special tool at the store to get that, just that tiny little angle, if I can get that. But everything else is pretty straightforward. Follow the instructions. I had to look at pictures online, but for the most part, this took about like an hour and 15 minutes, and I'm having to record and kind of focus on filming and doing this. If you're just focusing on this, this might take about 45 minutes. But I'm gonna go ahead and double check all the bolts in the morning, double check everything. I'm not gonna go ride it because I don't want it to fall off just in case. But I'm gonna double check absolutely everything, and then I'm gonna go to the hardware store, get a special tool, and maybe get some extra bolts just in case something does happen. I do have leftover pieces, and usually that is a problem when you have leftover pieces, but I looked in the manual, and these are adapters just in case you have a newer bike and you have a different size O2 sensor. So that's all this is. It's just an adapter. I didn't need it. So pretty excited for it. It sounds great, looks great, and I can't wait to do some more videos. So if you like this, please click that subscribe button. Right next to it is a notification bell button. Every time I post a video, you'll be notified when I post that video, and I'm gonna be doing a lot more tests on this bike. I'm gonna do a decibel test. I'm gonna be doing a bunch of other things just with the overall Vance and Hines mini grenades. So with that said, hope you guys ride safe, be safe, and take care of your back after installing this. I will. I'll see you guys later.